Welcome back folks. If you were not aware already, new demo for Gothic 1 Remake was released, or more specifically Nyras Prologue, which tells the story of a character we know about if you play the original title, and actually foreshadowing some stuff which will be revealed later on. Although, because there are people who haven't played the game, I don't want to spoil it. Demo takes place in the area where the original game starts, right up until the path which goes down to the old camp. Luckily, all of the stuff which was present in the old demo from a few years ago has been removed, and the layout of the original location is pretty much there, although some stuff like this mine has been extended with also upper area having a lot more detail. But of course the locations of a rusty sword or a pickaxe are the same as they were in the original, which is really nice. Demo itself lasts about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on how much you look at things, but overall gives a nice impression of exploration, combat and monsters like mole rats, scavengers and even a goblin. I will start to talk first about graphics and overall look of the world, as that's one of the most important elements of Gothic. Does it feel like a Gothic game? And I will tell you right away, this version and what they have in mind here is light years ahead of that original demo. They listened to people and made it more akin with green-brown hue. Although, I mean, considering that this is Unreal Engine 5 and we are, well, really far away from Zengen, which was that original engine used in Gothic 1. And of course, you can't really mimic everything to be one-to-one, or because, well, even devs back then didn't have the resources to have this much vegetation and density in the world like we have today. But stylistically looking at things, it does give me that feeling, and of course there is Sky's soundtrack in the back, so it does fill in those holes for immersion, but it's pretty good so far. Locations which don't have light are really dark, which makes actually nights in the colony especially cool. And using a torch really makes it atmospheric inside of that cavern or a mine. Funnily enough, you can now place it on the ground and pick it up so you can be ready to fight, before we get to the light spell. You will be just dropping that torch on the ground and you will start fighting those monsters. Things feel much bigger, of course. If you look at these hills and just the scope of the old camp and the area surrounding it, it feels big. But without much detail, being that this is a demo and represents an outdated version of the game compared to their internal development. There is a really nice vibe with how the sun goes through the leaves and creates this scene here, but it's really still in that Gothic style, where I can already say that the other part of the map, where we have the orcs and Zardas, that's where I want to see that more desolate part, Water looks nice as well, but I really want to see like the other side of the, Valley of Mines. I want to see how they did that. But if it looks like as vibrant, as detailed as this area, it's gonna be really good. Right off the bat we meet Diego, who tells us that we need to find a place to sleep, but it can't be there as I'm not a part of the old camp. We also get to meet Whistler, Ori on the gate, Kirgo by the rock slide, which serves as a barrier to the demo, and the two new camp fellas, Radford and Drax, that you might want to remember for later. On the upper part of the area we find two mole rats, a few scavengers and a goblin, which leads us to a new camp member which was, who sadly passed away in that spot, and that's actually why these two came to look for him. So then basically because we found him, they give us a place to sleep, so that's cool. Also later on, if you start going down to the actual old camp, we can see his friend who is actually hunting for some scavengers. So we're gonna be hunting, he's gonna be shooting a bow at the scavengers. We're gonna try and fight them, but ultimately that's going to also serve as a bit of an introduction to what we can do with like scavengers and the meat later on. Characters, when it comes to details and graphics, look good overall. Armor as well, at least, so far feels familiar as original designs, but quality is on point. Writing as well is similar to the original, very direct without too much theatricals. I thought voice acting was alright for this demo, no particular problem with that. Although sometimes dialogue was skipping a few lines by itself, but that's the problem with like just the bugs in the game, not the voice acting in general. But when they kind of talk about stuff, when they talk about the swamp camp or the sect camp or new camp or old camp, there is quite a bit of information there, and it's not again trying to give you and paint you this image of a fantasy land, but rather something you and I would be talking about in person if we were in that situation, so a very normal tone.
What's that cult you're talking about?
Right,
You're new here. Long and short of it, there's 3 camps in the colony, and one of them is a sect. Word is, their chief lunatic had some vision 6 years ago that some old god was about to wake up and save them all. So they moved to the swamp. Been living there ever since.
Now let's talk about animations and combat. So animations wise, I have mixed opinions about it. On one hand, I like the walk and running, but it feels heavy, sometimes too heavy. You can feel that delay as character starts moving or changes direction, sometimes too slow, sometimes too fast. Don't get me wrong, I see the vision here and how they want to structure the animations, but I feel like transitions between them needs to be better. Although jumping, climbing obstacles and jumping down was okay, I didn't feel like my character was sliding off the edge as it tends to be in some games, which I don't like. So there is definitely that added clunkiness that needs to be really polished up for the final release. Combat is totally different from the original playable teaser, which is good, and the idea they're pushing for now I like, although again, same issues as with walking and running, because attacking stuff and dodging and then attacking again felt also a bit clunky. Now, they want to maintain the same formula of character learning how to use the weapon, and at start, swinging around would be pretty much as any novice who picked up the weapon for the first time would without any skill, so that's cool. While later on you can learn level 2 of the skill in the demo, which gives us these animations which flow a lot better. Left click and right click will attack in a different direction, one attack tends to be faster, and you can combine the two. Q button will give you a stab and then a slice with a much heavier, slower attack if you press E. You can block the attack with a weapon, and if you are precise, you can parry the attack, giving you time to well counter back. Although when you attack, it really tends to lock you in too much and kinda make the next movement you do very unresponsive sometimes, which can result in some moments where I get hit even though I knew I pressed the right button. So combat idea is good, I don't have a problem with that, but as it is with the rest, it needs better transitions between those animations. Maybe our character is too slow, just by the way he reacts to stuff, when you walk around, because I'm thinking this might be tricky when we start fighting multiple opponents and stronger ones, because I'm pretty sure those animations are going to, glitch out, and again, we're gonna be, getting hit when we shouldn't be. You can lock in the target and switch between them, although I haven't really seen the UI of some of the monsters, maybe it got bugged for me for the demo, I actually had to guess a bit on how much damage they will take. Monster design is good, didn't have a problem with it, even fighting scavengers now feels like a proper monster fight, so I can't even imagine what Shadow Beast will look like. Enemies also attack in frontal patterns. What worked for me was pretty much dodging and then attack, dodge, sometimes even to parry an enemy attack. But oh boy, sometimes kinda the animation again gets stuck and I get hit when I shouldn't be, and I feel sometimes like just approaching the enemy and trying to attack was a bit awkward sometimes, even with level 2 of the skill where our character knows how to wield that weapon. I mean, if they work on that, I'm pretty sure this combat can be really satisfying on the final release, but it's too early to judge now from the demo. I think audio or effects of hitting stuff is not present in the demo, as it definitely needs more of that crisp sound, being that animation wise, enemies do react to your hits, they kinda just wobble away and you can feel from the weight of that weapon how you've pushed them, but I think there isn't really a sound which is going to follow up to that, because the blood and everything is there, everything is, on that part is good, but just needs more of that sound effects which is going to push it further. Speaking of UI and user experience, they kept it at a minimum, as it should be. Inventory has tabs, so it's easy to navigate stuff, and it doesn't really pause the game, so that's also from the original, which is good. That part of the UI stuff was fine, and there is no map, so the original exploration remains where we have to find the map later. You can assign stuff to the quick slots, and it's going to be very easy for you to navigate stuff going from the torch to a weapon or a bow later on. Pretty much it's still there. Performance wise, it's a bit ungrateful to really go in depth for a demo, but frame rate was solid around 70 to 80 on Gothic preset, which is kinda the biggest one before like the one preset which we're going to talk about. There is some smudginess with the grass and trees, but overall on this setting it looks really good. High option boosts FPS a bit, and there's a slight difference between Gothic setting and high, but it's okay. Now with medium and low options being, well, really medium to low, image was all over the place here. I mean, with really bright highlights and shadows, well, yeah. There is also the Alchemia overdose setting, but I couldn't run this even with my own PC. I mean, you might want to try this on the 10 available 5090s that were released, but just keep the fire department on speed dial. There are options to play around in the settings, of course, and kinda optimize it for your specs and PC. When it comes to consoles, right now there is no information on this as a demo. It will be available until 3rd of March for the Steam Next Fest, so you might want to try it if you actually have a PC. It would be nice to have this on the current gen PlayStation or Xbox just to test it out, but I guess porting the demo there would just add more work on top of that. And I mean, I doubt Alchemia has both dev capacity or budget to focus on that, because ultimately they have a budget and they have to ask for it, which is fine. The more resources for the game, the better. So what are my overall thoughts on the demo? Well, it's pretty solid so far. I think when it comes to how they want to portray Gothic, they are on the right path style-wise, but the animations and combat side of things still needs tweaks to really make things enjoyable and fun, not just for the veterans of the franchise, but for new players who will learn the hard way, because I think they don't know how brutal Gothic world can really be. And if fights are difficult but fair and animations work, I think this will be a huge plus. I'm also glad that they removed the original parts. The location from like that playable teaser was just not working, and nothing was working in that. But it's always good that they went with the original, which is always the best, because they did something really positive here. You can also cook food as before, collect stuff, and the eye to detail, just around the location as I was looking at things it's really good. Now remember also to tell your feedback to the devs. I will leave a link to the forum. It's really important that we give our feedback, because releasing this demo was smart. It keeps the community in the loop and we get to feel like we are part of this process, where in the end we can really get a good Gothic remake. Which, to be honest, I didn't think we would ever get, but this is our best and only shot at this as a community. I mean, remember that. And I really want them to release the best game that they can, as this can be a nice homage to Piranha Bytes and what they brought us 20 plus years ago. And this is all for today. Let me know down below what do you think about all of this. I'm really interested to hear your opinions, and I'm gonna be definitely doing more videos about Gothic Remake. Also, with what people have been saying, kinda group up all of those opinions and feedback from this demo, which I'm gonna leave for a few days, because of course I want people to kind of get into it and really feel it and tell me their opinion. Of course, as I said, don't forget to join our community on Twitter and Discord, and huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM signing out, and stay classy everyone. Bye bye.